Fractions come up all the time in everyday life. When you're cooking your favorite meal, you're probably using fractions to measure your ingredients. When you are sharing a candy bar with a friend, does each person get an equal piece? How about those coins in your pocket? Yep, you guessed it. Those are fractions too. Fractions are everywhere, so it's important we know how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide them. In this video, we'll review these key ideas and some important vocabulary along the way. We'll start with the important question first. What is a fraction? A fraction is a part of a whole. It is made up of two parts, a numerator and a denominator. The numerator tells how many parts you have, while the denominator tells how many equal parts the whole is divided into. For the proper fraction 3/5, a whole is divided into 5 equal pieces, and 3 of them are shaded in. Now let's review some operations with fractions, beginning with adding and subtracting fractions with like denominators. When you have two fractions whose denominators are the same, simply add or subtract the numerators and keep the denominator. Then simplify the answer if needed. Here's an example. 2/3 plus 1/3. You'll quickly notice both denominators are 3, so begin by adding the numerators. 2 plus 1 is equal to 3. We'll keep the denominator the same. Now we know that 2/3 plus 1/3 is equal to 3/3. Sometimes you will have to simplify your answer. In this case, 3/3 is the same as 1 whole. That was a piece of cake. But what about adding and subtracting fractions with unlike denominators? Fractions with unlike denominators have pieces that are not the same size, so there is one extra step. We need to rewrite the fractions so they both have the same denominator. First, you'll want to make equivalent fractions using the least common denominator. Once you've done this, then add or subtract your fractions like before. Let's look at what I mean with this subtraction problem. 8/9 minus 3/6. First, decide on a common denominator. Since 18 is a multiple of both 9 and 6, we can use 18 as our common denominator to make equivalent fractions. 8/9 is equal to 16/18, and 3/6 is equal to 9/18. 16/18 minus 9/18 is equal to 7/18. Since 7 and 18 have no common factors greater than 1, there is no need to simplify this fraction. 7/18 is our final answer. Now that you've got adding and subtracting down, how do we go about multiplying two fractions? First, multiply the numerators, then multiply the denominators. Finally, simplify if necessary. That's all there is to it. Let's practice one together. 3/4 times 7/9. Begin by multiplying the numerators. 3 times 7 equals 21. Now multiply the denominators. 4 times 9 equals 36. Finally, simplify the product, 21/36. A common factor of 21 and 36 is 3, so divide both the numerator and denominator by 3, and you get 7/12. You're doing great so far. I wonder if the steps are the same for multiplying a fraction by a whole number. The first thing you need to do is turn the whole number into a fraction by placing it above a denominator of 1. Once you have done that, multiply your numerators and then multiply your denominators, simplifying if needed. Here's an example, 2 times 2/5. To write a whole number as a fraction, just place it over 1. This works because the fraction 2 over 1 is the same as 2 wholes. Now multiply 2 over 1 times 2/5. 2 times 2 equals 4, and 1 times 5 equals 5. 4/5 is the answer, and it's already in simplest form. Next, we are going to review how to divide fractions. When dividing fractions, you need to use a reciprocal. I bet you're wondering, what is a reciprocal? A reciprocal is the inverse of the original fraction. To find the reciprocal, simply switch the numerator and the denominator. The reciprocal of 2/3 is 3 over 2. That's all there is to it. Let's use reciprocals as we review dividing two fractions. To divide a fraction, begin by finding the reciprocal of your divisor, which is the fraction you are dividing by. Once you have the reciprocal, multiply the two fractions. Wait a minute, multiply? Yes, you caught that right. Dividing by a fraction is the same as multiplying by the fraction's reciprocal. We know the steps for multiplying fractions are to multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators, and simplify. Let's practice with an example. 1/4 divided by 1/8. Start by finding the reciprocal of 1/8. When you switch the numbers, you get 8 over 1. Now multiply 1/4 times 8 over 1. 1 times 8 equals 8, and 4 times 1 equals 4. If we simplify 8/4, we get 2 wholes. 1/4 divided by 1/8 is 2. For our last set of examples, we will be using both mixed numbers and improper fractions. Let's review. What are mixed numbers and improper fractions? Both are ways of representing numbers that are greater than or equal to 1. A mixed number is made up of a whole number and a proper fraction, while an improper fraction has a numerator that is greater than or equal to its denominator. Mixed numbers can be converted into improper fractions, and improper fractions can be converted into mixed numbers as well. Take these two for example. The mixed number 2 1/3 is equal to the improper fraction 7/3. That's because each whole in 2 1/3 contains 3/3. So 2 wholes with 3/3 each is 6/3, plus another 1/3 is 7/3 in all. Sometimes it's useful to change mixed numbers into improper fractions to multiply and divide with them. When simplifying, it's usually best to change your answer back into a mixed number. Let's practice adding and subtracting mixed numbers. When adding or subtracting mixed numbers, you can add or subtract the whole numbers and then add or subtract the fractions. Simplify the answer if needed. Keep in mind, you may have to find a common denominator or regroup before starting. For example, to add 2 1/3 and 4 1/3, add the whole numbers 2 and 4 to get 6, and add the fractions to get 2/3. Here's a subtraction example. 9 and 1/11 minus 6 and 8/11. We can easily subtract 6 from 9, but when we go to subtract 8/11 from 1/11, we run into a problem. 1/11 is not large enough to subtract 8/11. When subtracting your fractions, sometimes the second fraction is larger than the first, so regrouping becomes necessary. In order to do this, you will have to separate out a 1 from the whole number and combine it with the fraction. Let me show you what I mean. First, separate out a 1 from 9, leaving 8 wholes. Then think of the 1 as the fraction 11/11. Now we can add 11/11 to the 1/11 we already had. Our mixed number is now 8 and 12/11. If we subtract 8 and 12/11 minus 6 and 8/11, 8 minus 6 equals 2, and 12/11 minus 8/11 is equal to 4/11. 2 and 4/11 is the difference, and it's already in simplest form. How about multiplying with mixed numbers? First, you'll want to change your mixed numbers into improper fractions. Then follow the same rules as multiplying two fractions, simplifying if needed. Here's an example. 1 3/4 times 3 4/5. Rewriting the problem with improper fractions gives us 7/4 times 19/5. Now we can multiply. 7 times 19 equals 133, and 4 times 5 equals 20. The product is 133 over 20, which when changed into a mixed number is 6 13/20 in simplest form. Last but not least, let's review dividing with mixed numbers. Begin by changing your mixed numbers and whole numbers into improper fractions. Then follow the steps for dividing two fractions. Find the reciprocal of the divisor and then multiply. Don't forget to simplify when you're done. 4 and 1/12 divided by 2. To change our mixed number and whole number into improper fractions, we would rewrite this as 49/12 divided by 2 over 1. Now that we are dividing two fractions, we can multiply by the reciprocal of the second fraction. We have 49/12 times 1/2. After multiplying, we get 49 over 24, which when simplified is 2 and 1/24. There you have it. Everything you need to know about adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing fractions. Don't worry, you've got this.